today I'll be talking to you about migration, which is what we work on. Migration today has become a socio-economic reality, and I'm sure each one of us have our own migration stories, in fact. So the organization that I work for started working on migration to begin with, and then we slowly developed an ecosystem of services around that. So first I'll talk to you about migration in India in general. If you look at this map, you can see all the various flows and human flows rather across the country. Because there are underdeveloped regions in the country and relatively affluent regions in the country, we do see a lot of human migration within the country itself. It is estimated that there are approximately 100 to 120 million migrants in India today. And if you look at largely the way industry functions, there is a growing preference for recruiting migrant workers because of the growing casualization associated with migration. So migration is definitely something that we need to look at, although internationally it has gained a lot of recognition. Internal migration in the country still requires a lot more policy attention. So this is the area that we work in, which is southern Rajasthan. Udaipur district is where we are headquartered. The southern Rajasthan belt is primarily semi-arid, very hilly, rocky terrain. Agriculture is not really a key sort of livelihood source in the region. The area is also predominantly tribal. So we see huge numbers of out-migration from Rajasthan towards primarily Gujarat and even Bombay, and nowadays newer streams towards the south also. And the key occupations that they get engaged in are construction, head loading, mining, etc., which are quite unskilled work and also risky and hazardous work. If we look at the region, a typical migrant worker's life cycle, what would it look like? So what we usually see is children as young as 13, 14 years of age will start migrating out of their homes. They will drop out of school and start migrating, because at that age you don't really have any skills, so you obviously engaged in very unskilled work and physically demanding work, which is why you would peak at the age of 30, 35. So where normally most of us would probably peak at the age of 45, 50, we see them peaking economically at 35 and then retiring by the age of 40. So it's a retirement nightmare for someone who has come back at 40 but has to live longer with no income source. And so once they come back at 40, the cycle repeats itself, where their children who are 12, 13, 14 then again migrate. So we really keep this in mind whenever we think about migration and think about households and how to address the issue. Migrants from the region also face very specific risks. If you look at their absence from destination, they do not have from source, they do not have identity proofs. A lot of them go young, so they do not have skills. A lot of them are cheated by their contractors. They're not collectivized. And the women who are left behind have to deal with male absence once the man leaves. Similarly, if we speak about financial risks and so on, most of them do not have bank accounts. So safekeeping of cash is really an issue. Remittances also are largely informal and not through formal sources. And a very common practice among this group is taking an advance from their contractors before they migrate and then working it off. So what it actually leads to is contemporary forms of slavery. We keep saying that bondage has been abolished in India, but we do see it in these forms as well. So a little bit about the organization. Given the high scale of migration that we witnessed from the region, Ajivika Bureau was established in 2005 to turn migration into a positive opportunity. So we don't believe that migration can stop. We think it will continue, but what's more important is to turn it into a more dignified and positive opportunity. And while Ajivika was working on various social support services, they also realized a very strong need for financial services. Because while social support will help you reduce vulnerabilities to a certain extent, you need access to finance to also improve your returns from migration. So they set up Rajasthan Shram Sarthi Association, which I work for, which is a Section 25 company primarily aimed at delivering financial services to migrant workers. If we look at the larger banking institutions and financial industry, most people will shy from working with migrants because they are considered a very risky group because of their high mobility. But RSSA is primarily designed to work with this group specifically. So this is the model that we function on, where Ajivika provides social support services, whereas RSSA provides services such as credit, insurance, pension, social security, savings and financial literacy to a migrant household, so that they get a combination of both these services. So I'll just discuss and share a few stories, some of our own customers and how their lives have panned across. We'll start with Gopilal. So Gopilal is a 27-year-old right now from one of the villages in Gogunda in Dholigari. He is 8th pass. So he says when he failed a 9th grade, when he gave his 9th standard exams and he failed, he was really worried about what to say at home. So he ran away with some of his friends to Ahmedabad. So he said कि मैडम गांव में बहुत पॉपुलर मतलब कहते हैं कि पास हुए तो जिंदाबाद, फेल हुए तो अहमदाबाद. So it's very common for young boys to drop out of school and then go with their peers to Ahmedabad, Surat, etc. When he went to Ahmedabad, he started working in the catering business with a small dhaba. He used to earn about 500 rupees a month for cleaning tables, for washing plates, etc. How it used to work is he would get his payment at the end of 3 to 4 months, and he kept telling me there was always कुछ तो गड़बड़ होता था, खर्ची देते रहते थे, but end में कुछ गड़बड़ होता था. So he ran away from there and came back to Udaipur. Once he came back, he started working in some unskilled construction work. That's when he heard of the skill training program under Ajivika Bureau and trained to become a plumber. He worked for a few years as an apprentice under another plumber, and after a year or so, he gained the confidence to start his own business as a plumber. So then he took a loan from RSSA, a very small loan of 3,000 rupees to get some basic tools which could get him started, because he had the skills, but he now needed the tools. So he started taking independent jobs as a plumber himself, and then slowly realized that if he could repay a loan of 3,000 and had the confidence in doing so, he could take a higher loan amount, take more tools, and maybe have 2 or 3 workers with him. So he took another loan, became a petty contractor, hired 2 or 3 workers and started taking small jobs. And over the years, he took another loan from us to buy bigger machines, and now is a large contractor. He takes large contracts in Udaipur, Nathdwara, etc. He also took a 4th loan from us to improve the productivity of his land, because he says कि मैं घर के बाहर होता हूँ तो पत्नी क्या खाएगी. So he wants to make sure that there's enough food security at home, that there's a second crop that his wife can cultivate, because in this region usually there's enough water for one crop. But he's able to make those changes to his land and water sources. For him, when we asked him what was his biggest success, he says कि मैं tribal हूँ, मैं ST community का हूँ, और कोई भी बड़ा ठेकेदार ST community का उसके आसपास नहीं है. So for a tribal person to be a large contractor which is dominated by people from the general community was a very big deal. He also told us that because of all the extra money that he was earning, he now shifted his children from the government school to a better private school where they're able to get a better education, and that they also have enough food throughout the year. So they're not starving, and they've included things like vegetables, etc. So this was really a very big success for us also. In fact, it came to us as a surprise that what a little amount of finance along with investment in human resource and skills could do. The other story I will tell you about is Rami Bai. So Rami Bai is a 50-year-old lady from Bani village in Gogunda. She has 2 sons, both of whom are migrants to Idar. They work as cooks in Gujarat, and they're away about 3 to 4 months in a year, and then they come back for about 10 to 15 days. So one of the programs that RSSA runs is called the Gullak Bachat program, which is a informal savings program with one of those piggy boxes that you can see. The piggy box has a lock on it, and the general philosophy is Gullak thare paas, chabi mare paas. So the Gullak remains with the woman, it's locked so she can't take out money. The key remains with the office, and we visit them once every month to open the lock, count their savings, counsel them on how to use it. So she was part of a Gullak group that she joined in 2011. She started with 20 rupees a month, but then it kept changing. She started saving 200, 500, and slowly her savings kept rising. We helped her open a bank account, and over the years she managed to save about 17,000 rupees in a bank account, which she also could not believe, because she said मैंने शुरुआत में तो सिर्फ 20 रुपए बचाए थे. Then recently, in 2013, she met with an accident. A biker came and just hit her from the back. Both her sons were away, they were not at home. Or it was just her and her daughter-in-laws. Typically in this region, women are not empowered to go and access services themselves. What would typically happen if somebody fell ill is they would wait for their sons or husbands to come back and then probably go and access some kind of medical service. In this case, she said, because I had 17,000 rupees in my bank, And because my daughter-in-laws were also part of the group and they themselves had about 5 to 6,000 rupees, they did not have to wait for her sons to come back. She was able to go and get herself treated in a hospital. Obviously, when her sons came back, it was easier. But she says, had I not had that money, I would have had to approach a money lender and borrow money maybe at interest rates of 5 to 25% a month. Because it's very hard for a woman to negotiate with a money lender when the man is away. Because the money lender has no assurance that the man will come back and if his money will ever come back. So for her to be able to go independently and seek medical care in the absence of her sons, not only gave her the confidence, but also, she's turned into a community leader within that own village where she keeps telling other people ki aapko bhi bachana chahiye. In fact, she tells us that the day she got married, had she started saving from then, she says, main shayad aaj karodpati ban jati. So that's what she says. So just to give a quick look at the numbers that we have done, obviously these numbers are more relevant when we hear individual stories like Ramibai's or Gopilal's. But broadly, we've been able to link about 4,000 workers with old age pension services, about 4,600 workers with credit services, about 4,500 people with bank accounts and the Gullak savings product, insurance and financial literacy meetings. A lot of the financial literacy meetings also, in fact, focus a lot on your work-related aspects, such as calculation of basic wages, how do you account for overtimes, advances, etc., so that they're not cheated by their contractors. In fact, a lot of we concluded an impact assessment exercise recently, and a lot of our customers, we noticed, had the highest impact where they had availed a combination of all these services. And some of the biggest impact were in their social developmental capital. So for example, one of our customers says, there was a time last year when I was thinking of making my 11-year-old son leave school, but he was able to continue due to some assistance by RSSA. I want to go back to work now and ensure that such a situation never comes. So they were able to free up their future finances to invest in education, health, nutrition, etc. So broadly, the community is not available regularly. It's seasonally available in the villages as well as at the cities. It's a mobile, footloose community, and therefore a lot of our model is actually structured around that to address these characteristics of this particular group. So in that sense, it's a unique financial services model. In fact, our innovation is also in identifying who the customer is, and we can go into this in detail later. So far, we have worked largely at the source end on breaking past debt cycles and debt bondage conditions, on managing risk and financing occupation shifts. But for the future, we definitely want to also look at how do we enhance returns from migration? How do we address their needs in the city? Because it's far more challenging, and that's something we are really looking forward to.